Hello, Wabash, and welcome to another episode of What's Happening This Week at Wabash High School. Hey, before we get too involved in this week's message, I want to give special congratulations to Kirsten O'Neill. For those of you that don't know, this past weekend, this past Friday, Kirsten competed in the Indiana Girls High School State Wrestling Championship, and for the second time in 3 years, Kirsten is a state champion. Wow, congratulations, Kirsten, on a job well done. Your hard work, your dedication, your devotion, everything paid off for you this year, and we are all extremely proud of you. So again, congratulations, and keep fighting. We all want to see a third state championship next year, so well done to you. Now, some other things to get to before we get to this week's calendar and the nitty gritty of the week. First thing I want to bring up is the weather. We are going to start seeing in the weeks ahead winter weather. Snow, ice, all those nasty winter things, they're heading this way, and that means school delays, school cancellations, but more importantly, it means slick roads and slick sidewalks. So if you are driving to school, please be careful. Take extra time. Honestly, I would much rather have you be a little late to school, a little late to that first period class, because you're taking your time, you're being safe, rather than leaving at a normal time when there's bad roads out and rushing and sliding, getting into a wreck or falling on a slick sidewalk and getting hurt. So please be aware of what's going on. Be aware of the weather. Stay up to date on delays and cancellations. Remember, you can find all of those things on our social media, whether it's the school Facebook page, my Twitter, my Instagram, Mr. Whelan's Twitter, the school website, the radio stations. We will get that information out on all of those. So please make sure that you're paying attention to things and take your time. Okay, take your time. Now, this week, third week of the second semester, we are literally only 2 weeks away from midterms. Believe it or not, the end of, not this week, but the end of next week is going to be midterms for the third grading period. Things are flying. So as we are getting into things here, I want to make sure that you remember, we got to stay on top of you on this, I know. Get your work done and get it done on time. Stay caught up with your classes, okay? If you don't understand something, you need some help, ask. But get some help, stay up to date, get things turned in. It's extremely important. And most of all, and I know this sounds silly, but most of all, go to class. All right? If you are not sick, if you're not quarantined, or if you're at home doing online work, if you're not one of those things, you should be physically going to class. Okay? Unfortunately, there are a few of our students who feel that they don't need to go to class for one reason or another. They skip the class or don't know. You know what? It doesn't matter. If your schedule says you have a class, you have a class. Plain and simple. If your schedule reads study hall or your schedule says credit recovery, you should be going to study hall or credit recovery. If your schedule says you have a period 7 class, you should be in that period 7 class. Plain and simple. If your schedule says that you have Heartland Career Center, you should be going to Heartland Career Center. Your schedule is made for a reason, and you are given classes and you are given that schedule for a reason. You have a responsibility to go to class. Okay? All of these classes that are on your schedule, they are necessary for you to graduate. Unfortunately, some of you out there feel that you know better, that you feel you shouldn't have to be doing this or that or going to Heartland or going to your period 7 class, and you're not following your schedules properly. And unfortunately, I'm here to tell you now, before you get too buried into the semester, if you are doing those things, you are going to be in for a very big surprise at the end of this grading period and the end of this semester when you find out that one, you're behind, and two, for those seniors that may be doing this, you won't graduate on time. It's plain and simple. You must be doing these things. There are certain requirements that you have to do. These are requirements laid out by the state of Indiana and the Indiana Department of Education. And if you don't meet those requirements, then you're not going to graduate. It's as simple as that. So please go to the class, follow your schedule, do what you're supposed to do, and live up to your responsibility as a student. Okay? Now, I also know that there are several of you who are not going to your scheduled advisory classes. You might want to start following your advisory schedule that you have down on your schedule. If you're caught not going to advisory, the advisory that you are scheduled to attend, you run the risk of having to serve a Saturday school. Plain and simple. If you're not where you're supposed to be, and where you're supposed to be is where you are or what's listed on that schedule, then you are basically truant from class. And truancy by our student handbook is a Saturday school. So you must be in the advisory class that you are scheduled to be in. It's especially important this year that you're where you're supposed to be because, one, we have to know where you are at all times. If we have to locate you, get you for an emergency, if we have an emergency and we have to go through an attendance list and you're not where you're at, you run the risk of a number of different things in regards to safety-wise. But more importantly, if you're not where you're supposed to be and we have to do contact tracing, then how do we do that? We don't know who you've been around. We don't know where you've been. You've been off doing things on your own, and you run the possibility of possibly if you are COVID positive and it's just coming about, you run the risk of infecting other people. And we don't want that to occur. We have to be able to do that contact tracing. So if you need to be somewhere else, other than what your scheduled advisory class is. If you need to be in a different advisory or if you need to meet a teacher or do something for class, you need to let your regular advisory teacher know so that they can make notes in the attendance and let us in the office know so that we can make corrections accordingly. Otherwise, don't get mad, don't get upset when we call you down and say, hey, look, you weren't where you were supposed to be this advisory. You didn't notify your regular advisory teacher as to where you were going to be. So that's a truancy. That's a skipping a class. That's a Saturday school. Don't get upset when that happens. Okay, because we're telling you, we've told you at the beginning of the year. We told you several weeks ago at the beginning of the semester. We're telling you now. Okay, you must be where you're scheduled to be. We must know where you are at all times and who you are near for contact tracing. And remember, you have a schedule for a reason. I mean, there is a listing of classes where you're supposed to be for a reason. We need to know where you are. So please follow it. Okay? Follow it. Finally, hey, I harp on this all the time. Make sure you're doing your work, okay? Whether you are in class, you're on Apex, Canvas, some form of hybrid scheduling, it doesn't matter. You have to do your work, okay? Not doing your work will get you nothing but put in the same class next year and behind for graduation. Plain and simple, okay? To graduate, as I mentioned before, you have to have so many credits in so many certain classes. Okay, large number of those classes are required classes. State says, hey, you have to pass this class. You got to pass that class. You don't pass that class, you're not going to graduate. You're going to be in it next year, and you're going to continue to take that class until you get it. So please, we have provided a number of different options for you to be able to get these credits, okay? And unfortunately, there are some of you out there who think you know better. You're not living up to your responsibilities. and so you're going to suffer for it, okay? So please, if you're scheduled to be at school, okay, then be at school. If you have gone through Mr. Whelan and the guidance department and you have been given the okay to work at home, work at home. If that scheduling at home involves you going to Heartland Career Center either in the mornings or the afternoons, well then for heaven's sakes, go to Heartland Career Center, okay? Remember, state of Indiana has mandated that students have to have pathways to graduate, and for many of you that are doing that Heartland for half a day, that is your graduation pathway. So if you don't have that graduation pathway, you're not going to graduate. It's plain and simple. It's cut and dry, black and white. You know, you either get your required credits and pathways and you graduate, or you don't get them and you don't graduate. You come back again for another year. So please, whatever you're doing, follow your schedule, get your work done, go to Heartland, okay? And if for some reason you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you haven't gotten confirmation on something you're supposed to be doing, then please call into the front office here and get with somebody, and we will get it figured out, okay? I know sometimes it feels like it takes a long time, but keep in mind there are 500 of you out there, and there's basically 4 of us in this front office, you know, working on these decisions and working on making sure that everything gets accomplished in the manner that it needs to be accomplished. So please, okay, if you've called, you haven't gotten an answer, don't give up. Don't just sit there. Don't ignore everything and wait for something to come to you. Give it a couple days. If you haven't heard anything in a couple days, then give us a call back and see where it's at, okay? But whatever you do, don't just do nothing, okay? This is your future that you are playing around with. So make sure you are where you need to be on your schedule. Make sure you're doing the work that you're supposed to be doing, and make sure that you are working towards your ultimate goals, okay? And the number one ultimate goal that each and every one of you should have is to graduate on time with your fellow classmates and with your cohort, okay? Now, all that out of the way, let's take a look what's happening this week, okay? And again, third week of the semester, pretty light week. Not a tremendous amount of disruptions to the school day. So as we get into the meat of the third grading period, so to speak, you're going to have some time to get work done, get that work done, and make some progress towards your grading period goals. Okay, Monday is Martin Luther King Day. Okay, and I know it's a government holiday. A lot of people are going to say, oh, why are we going to school on Martin Luther King Day? Well, we come to school on Martin Luther King Day because what better place to learn about the things that Martin Luther King did than at school, okay? And a lot of the classes will have some Martin Luther King lessons going on. So Monday, Martin Luther King Day, we'll also have, I'll give a reading in the morning, give you a little bit of information on that as well. So the other thing I want to bring up on Monday, now this doesn't affect a lot of you, matter of fact, it only affects one of you, but there will be a student-athlete college signing going on around lunchtime. Congratulations, Mariah Wyatt. For signing to move on, continue your academic studies and your athletic career at the collegiate level. So big shout out and congratulations to Mariah on that as she puts her signature down on the piece of paper and commits to attending and continuing her work at the next level. Monday, 6 p.m., Wabash City School Board meeting. Tuesday, pretty quiet day throughout the day. 6 p.m. Tuesday night, boys JV and varsity basketball versus Mississinawa. Again, that's going to be a home game, so be sure you're checking the athletic Facebook page and athletic social media for guidelines on being able to come to the game and being able to watch the game online. All of that'll be out. Wednesday during lunch, entrepreneurship group's going to have a meeting. And then we have girls JV varsity basketball back in action against Lewis Cass at Lewis Cass. Thursday, during lunch and advisory, Purdue University will be doing a virtual college visit. So if you are interested in going to Purdue, please get with your guidance counselor to learn how you can be part of that virtual college visit for Purdue. And then Thursday night, 6:15, girls JV varsity basketball versus Manchester at home. Friday, 7 a.m. FCA Day. Of course, Apache Way pass recognition, the same as every Friday. Friday night, boys JV varsity basketball versus North Miami at home. And then Saturday, we've got a big day for swimming and diving and wrestling, as both those teams will be at the TRC conference meet, their respective TRC conference meets, both being held at McConaughey at the same time. So again, be sure if you want to go to those, be sure to check ahead of time as to what's being allowed and what's not being allowed. And then 6:15 at night, girls JV varsity basketball versus North Miami. So that's all said. It was a pretty big week this week, a lot of things to go over, but we are getting into that time of year where it's extremely important that we continue to stay working, continue to stay focused on our goals, and let's get it done. So see you, everybody, bright and early Monday morning, first bell, 8:30 a.m., and have a good week, Apaches.